Hi, how are you? My name's Cathryn Nolan, Cath. Some of you will have met me before. The rest of you, I'm very much looking forward to working with you all. It's my very great pleasure to be your facilitator for this hackathon. Really exciting initiative. I think we are going to have a lot of fun. Why me doing this? Well, frankly, I think it's just enthusiasm. But I do have a background in the hackathon space. Those of you who know me know I've been a commercial lawyer for more than 30 years. I've worked largely in the commercial M&A space. But I've also spent a number of years in the startup world. I've been involved in 2 financial services technology companies that have been taken to listing as in-house counsel and as a founder. So a lot of the kind of processes that we're talking today about starting with a blank sheet of paper, getting ready to move into the world of finding solutions is something that I've worked with in real life in collaborative cross-functional teams involving lawyers, accountants, software developers, business people, marketing people. And so I've been through this process well before we called it a hackathon, let me tell you. So let's start off with what is a hackathon and what is it that you're trying to do? It is a hackathon. It's not a create a perfect solution that is ready to commercialize a thon. It's basically a short, intensive period in which we are going to do a deep dive into a problem, an industry-based problem, and we are going to find some kind of solution or proof of concept or the beginning of an idea for solving that problem that we're going to present back to industry. By the end of the 48-hour period, roughly, that you will be working together, you're going to be in a position to pitch a solution to a problem that's already been given to you. So how are you going to do that? I thought I would take the opportunity to try and kind of draw an agenda for you as we work together. So bear with me a little bit here and let's see what we can do. So I like to sort of think about a hackathon as a bit like the hero's journey. I think about it as a kind of cycle like this. Right now, we're at the very beginning of the journey. You are sitting at home, alone, in your ordinary life. Yes, that's a picture of you. Aren't you gorgeous? Oops, you're that way. You're sitting there and there's some kind of spark has created the need for you to do this next thing. Now, in our case, the spark is likely the problem that you've been given. But for most entrepreneurs, there's just some kind of grating problem, some stone in their shoe, some particular issue that is bugging them in a way that they think, actually, this solution, if I can find a solution to this problem, my life and possibly the life of many people that I care about will be significantly different. So what do you do to do this? In a hackathon, much as in real life, we start by gathering our team of people who are different from us, who think about the world in different ways from the way we do around us. And so we create this team of people who are also interested in solving this particular problem, but they approach the world differently from us. Collaboration and working together is a key part of this whole process, and it is actually something that you will be assessed on. In addition, what you are looking for here is mentors, and we are blessed to have a series of really awesome industry-based mentors who can really help you identify how this issue impacts industry, what problems, greats, pains are being affected by industry at the moment, and also to give you insights as to what will and won't work at this early stage. And of course, in addition to that, you have me as a facilitator, whatever that is for you. And my role here will be to give you little insights, tips, tricks, help you keep on a path, which I'll explain in a moment, but also essentially to facilitate both your deep understanding of the problem, and then the ideation process into solutions. What other tools will you have? Now, just whether you were Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker or any kind of hero embarking on a journey, once you've gathered your team of comrades against you, your merry women, as I like to think of them, the next thing that you're doing is you're gathering your magic kit, your tools of the trade, your ship, your whatever it is that you need. What we will have is clearly an online environment where we're going to be working together. Now, some of you might find that it makes more sense to get your team into the same room. I'm quite happy for you to do that if that's what you want to do, but there is absolutely no need to do that. What we're going to be doing is working remotely, collaboratively. So in order to do that, clearly, we're going to use a whole lot of cloud tools. They are going to include things like Slack. Now, this video, you might be seeing it for Slack in the first time. Slack is a tool that many of you will be really familiar with. For those of you who are a bit new to it, it's basically become a tool that has really revolutionized the way that technology companies in particular work together. It provides a sort of opportunity for an ongoing conversation. It provides opportunity to share information. The availability of different bots gives us lots of opportunity to really keep on the same page when we're not in the same room. We are clearly going to use video conference. Now, that for us is going to take the form of Collaborate Ultra. In the real world, outside of an academic setting, that's probably going to be Zoom or Zoom or Butter or WebEx or any of many different tools. But we're going to use Collaborate Ultra. We're going to use its breakout rooms. As an individual team, do you have to use a Collaborate Ultra breakout room? No, you don't. If you don't want to, don't. If you do want to, that's fine. But as a group, you need to make a decision fairly early on what tools you are going to use and how it is that you're going to talk to each other. I would strongly recommend that when you are talking to each other, if you're not in the same room, that you put your cameras on and you use your voices. Don't just use the chat in Slack. Why? Because 80% of what we hear comes from what we see, the way that we share our body language, our responses. Part of what we do when we're talking to other people is react to their body language. So I would strongly recommend that you've only got 48 hours to coalesce, become a team, and actually work strongly together. So make it as easy for yourself as you can, even if you feel uncomfortable in front of a camera, which, let's face it, most of us do. Really take advantage of that. Other tools that we're going to use that might be available to you are things like online whiteboards. That might be Mural. I've set up Mural shells for each of the teams if you want to use them. It could be something like Miro, it could be Jamboard, or you might just bring up some Google Slides. Again, the tools don't matter. It's what you do with those tools as you move forward. So basically, once you've identified and worked out what tools you're going to use, and quite frankly, that would be a useful discussion for you to have before you start or very, very early in the hackathon. Work out what your rules of engagement for your team are going to be. The next thing is your problem. So the next thing you're going to start with is your problem. Now, your problem, you've got it in writing. It's come from industry. It is a real problem. It is what, in a design thinking context, we would call a wicked problem. There is no single answer. And in fact, the way that you answer that question may, in fact, impact the problem itself. It's the very nature of what a wicked problem is. They are complex. They are not algorithmic. The way that you frame and think about the problem will impact the kinds of solutions that you come up with. And there is no single framing. A user's perspective of the problem might be quite different from a regulator's perception of the problem, from the lawyer's perception of the problem. And to an extent, taking sides in this problem, really understanding who it affects and how will be crucial to what you do. For a minute now, actually, I just want you to stop and just, dare I say it, close your eyes for a minute. Think about the first time that you ever fell in love. Now, that might have been this morning when you were buying a coffee somewhere. It might have been many, many years ago when you saw that special someone do something pretty fancy on the monkey bars at your primary school. Remember that feeling. I'm not talking about being married to somebody. I'm talking about that head over heels, brand new love feeling. That's how I want you to think about your problem. I need you to completely fall in love with your problem in the next 48 hours. Why do I say that? Because when you are in new love, you care deeply about the problem, but you are not focused on the solution. Not initially, anyway. When you are at the beginning of a love affair, everything about that person is interesting to you. The way they brush their teeth, how they look when they're asleep, what their friends, who their friends are, what your friends think of them, what your family think about them, what movies they like, what music they like. You actually have this deep and open curiosity about this person that you are in love with. I want you to achieve this with your problem. I want you to really dig deep and deeply understand who your problem is. So essentially that's what we're going to do with our problem. I need you to fall in love with your problem. So instead of just finding the obvious solution to it, that you are interested in finding out the solution that really matters. Because once you've fallen in love with your problem, you will be open to thinking about the features and the benefits that will come with a final solution to that problem. You will be able to write a love letter to it. You will work out what needs to happen in order for your problem to be solved. So right now, that's actually what we're going to be doing for the first day here. So essentially for the first half-ish of our first session together, you're essentially going to be in this place of knowledge. You are going to be in the world of what it is that is known. You're going to be doing this deep dive into the problem that you are really trying to solve. Then what we're going to do is when you really understand that problem, that will help you identify, as I said before, the kinds of features and benefits that a solution will need to have. Now, that's when we get into what we tend to call the ideation stage. What the science and the research shows us is in order to have a good idea, you basically need to have a lot of ideas. You can't find the best idea unless you've got at least a good one and a better one to compare it against. There is no doubt that the most prolific genius of all time have actually produced many, many pieces of art, many, many pieces of invention. So Thomas Edison, for example, has more than 1,000 patents to his name. Still a record, apparently. We might remember certain things that he invented, but we don't actually realize just how many things there were to choose from. Whether it's Lennon and McCartney, whether it's the Rolling Stones, whether it's Picasso, some of the greatest names in creativity and art of our time, one of the things that is consistent about them is that they had lots of work to choose from, that their genius developed from lots of ideas. So essentially, this is where you're going to go into the second part of this session. We'll be doing what are called sprints. So each sprint will have a little target. The initial ones will be about making sure you get to understand your idea, and then we'll move in, your problem, and then we'll move into finding as many different ideas as we can. Now, this is going to get quite stressful. It is quite usual when we're in the hero's journey to end up in what is often referred to as the second act, the pit of despair. And I think it was Yoda who said, it's the cave you fear to enter is the one that you need to enter in order to really pull your ideas and your understanding together. So it is quite likely that by the end of the first half, you will be feeling a bit despondent. You will have potentially not as many ideas as you wish you had. You will find that you are a little bit lost. Perhaps you're getting cranky with your teammates or they're getting cranky with you. You will be having different ideas about where to go. This is a great time to find your own personal Yoda. This is a great time to check in with your mentors. Work out what they think about the approaches that you're taking, where they would go next, what issues they might see that you can't because you've got so close to this problem that you are dealing with. But once we move beyond our pit of despair, it is really quite usual for us to find that we go from this unknown, uncertain space into a space of new ideas and enlightenment. And again, whether that's as a consequence of the tools that I'm going to introduce you to, or whether it's as a consequence of the way that you work together, I think that over this stage you are likely to develop what we would call in the biz a prototype. So your prototype actually just might be a story. It might be a description of what and how your tool will work or your solution will work. It might be a PowerPoint presentation or something similar. You might build a little online website. So you might use something like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress or something to build something that explains what you do. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. We just need to understand how your ideas come together. And you need something that you can show people, show your mentor, so that you get that opportunity to test and experiment and think about the way that your end product will come together. Now, I'm using the word product here very loosely. It might be a physical thing. It might be an app or a service. It might be a process. It might be a website. It might be a whole new kind of technology. This is a hackathon. We are open to whatever it is that you come up with. We are not expecting a minimal viable product. We are not expecting a working physical device. What we are expecting to see, though, is some kind of prototype, a low fidelity prototype, whether it's in the form of a story, role play, whatever, or diagrams, drawings, journey mapping. And all of these concepts I will explain and your mentors will work with you on as we move. And before you know it, you will be heading back into your new version of your ordinary life with these fabulous people who have become your team members, your colleagues, your presenters. One of the things that you will need to do is basically make a little video explaining and showing us what your prototype is. It shouldn't go for any more than 10 minutes, and use that as a stop, not a target. Shorter, cleaner, clearer is better. You will essentially be pitching this as if you were pitching for seed investment. So what you will be doing is really explaining to us these core ideas. Why is this thing desirable? What is it about this? I bet I spelled that incorrectly. What is it about this thing that you've created that your users, who you now know more about, are going to love? You're going to have to also work out, what do you need to know in order to, is it a feasible solution? What technologies will you need? Are they around yet? Are we going to have to wait for something else to be invented? What kind of resources would be needed to put this together? And then lastly, is it going to be viable? Now, again, I'm not expecting any kind of cost-benefit analysis or anything like that. What I'm really looking for at this stage is actually, is this a one-off? Can we find something that is sustainable, repeatable, that can work at the relevant volume for the kind of problem that you have? Now, you may not be able to answer these things. You've got 48 hours after all, but I want you to be thinking in the pitch about what you think those questions or problems will look like so that you can pitch essentially for the money, resources, or otherwise that you would need to create this truly sustainable solution. Okay, so that's enough for me now. Basically, your next job is to get a good night's sleep, make sure you've got water, caffeine, cake, chocolate, fruit and vegetables, whatever it is that you need to hand in order to get through what will be 48 pretty intense hours, that you're ready to come with an open mind and to collaborate well with the other members of your team, that you're open to learning from and working with mentors who are generously giving of their time in order to see what you can do with this great problem, that you're ready to really, really dig deep and understand and fall in love with that problem so that you don't just jump to the first solution, but at the same time to recognize that done is better than perfect and that it is not your job to solve this problem for forever, but to come up with a proof of concept, to come up with an innovation or an approach to solving this problem that will make the world and the legal process a better place. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I will see you in the first plenary session really soon. Cheers.